I was the first black fire inspector, a fire person in that house and in that area. Well, my first day there, I was the only black person assigned to that house. When I walk in, nobody spoke. I spoke, said good morning, nobody said nothing. And I knew then that it was gonna be a long day. Couldn't eat with them. So what I did was either bring my meal or I called my wife at home and I bought my food in and I cooked it. And I eat my own meal separately. I came out number 1 on the test, he came out number 2, and they accused us of cheating. We walked all around and marched all around and get y'all guys those eager writing. You come in here and write me up. People would second guess you and didn't think that you should be where you are or knew what you knew. And she called me, she says, hey boy, and, let me tell you something. I knew I was saved, but something set me on, boy. You had to always prove who you were, what you knew. And those were the things that we'll do, and we just had to stay there and pave the way for somebody else to do it.
Hear my prayer, Lord.
Well, when I was in Petersburg and I got married with my wife, I was going back and forth to work from Richmond to Petersburg every day for 5 days a week. And I said, no, I need another job. And so I saw the advertisement in the newspaper about firefighters. So I decided that I'm going to apply for it, and I did. And therefore, they hired me. I didn't know who was on the fire department at that time, but I also, later on, I understood that there was a black fire company at 5th and Duval, but it was all black. They had not integrated. They had not spread out throughout the whole fire bureau at that time. But that I didn't know until after I came on board as a fireman. And then that's when I found out that they had this fire company that was on 5th and Duval. But what happened was, 2 firemen, they went to a scene where they had to go and they had some gas that was in a hole that they went down in the hole, and 2 of them died down there. And so what they did from that, they split them up and started integrating, because at that time people were talking about integration and, so he decided they're gonna move people into the different firehouses, black folks in different firehouses. And so when they hired me, they sent me to Laura and Cumberland. It was more white section of town, and poor white folks down in that area. I was the first black fire inspector, a fire person in that house and in that area. And it was quite an experience going there for the first day. So when I went there on my first day, and which was a 24-hour day. You stay in the engine house for 24 solid hours, then you get off the next day. Well, my first day there, I was the only black person assigned to that house. And when I walk in, nobody spoke. I spoke, said good morning, nobody said nothing. And I knew then that it was gonna be a long day. And so from that, I began to realize that I'm gonna have to either endure some things. And so what I did basically after that was, after I talked to the captain sat down and talked to me and told me that he's gonna tell me my job and everything gonna be job related. As far as socializing, it won't be none of that. I said, fine, no problem. So that's when I knew I bought me a bunch of books from home and studied. And I just kept my head in the book. And I stayed down there for about 6 months, something like that. And the thing about it, whereas it looked like they were doing it spitefully, it helped me because it took a year to learn how to drive the fire truck on it was 2-piece company. So the first piece you could drive for 6 months, then the other one you drive a whole year because you had formulas and you pump water, and you just throwing water, you got to know formulas to pump water. And then you got to know every street in your district, plus every hydrant that's in your district, the water hydrant. And so all I had to do was study. And so I knew it going backwards and forwards. So within about 2.5 months, 3 months, I was driving. As time progressed, I could eat with them, nor could we, and they had what they call a black bed. Let me explain something to you. By black bed, I mean whoever slept in the bed was only black folk. So your person who relieved you had to be a black person. So the black person would relieve you, and they had to use your mask, they had to sleep in your bed, and you relieve each other. Okay, so no white relieved the black, or black relieved the white. That was your person. And so that way it would be for at least 6 to 7 months down there. And so that I knew, that I knew that I had to deal with. And so that's what I dealt with. And so after a while, about 6 to 8 months, there was another engine company that had an opening, and they wanted somebody of color to come up there. So they knew me because I'm being there for 6 months. They decided they're gonna get one they can trust. So I was it. So they sent me to Lombard and Broad, which was number 5, come to number 10. But up there, I got much better treatment up there than I did at 6, because what they did then, they allowed me to eat with them. But we still had the black bed, couldn't eat with them. So what I did was either bring my meal, or I called my wife at home and I bought my food in and I cooked it. And I eat my own meal separate. It was a thing of if you the first went there, you could say, "Oh, I'm quitting. I don't need this." But you knew that people coming along behind you, and you knew that somebody got to set it. And so that's what I decided to do. I'm gonna say, you ain't running me nowhere. And so we endured that. Lombard and Broad Street was different. The captain received me pretty good. We got along pretty good. But the one thing that got me over more than anything else was, at Lombard and Broad, was they didn't have nobody to cook. And so I decided I'm gonna volunteer to cook, knowing nothing about cooking. And so what I would do, I would call my wife. I'll go to the store and buy the stuff and call my wife and say, "How you cook this?" And she tell me how to cook it. And they ate it. And one thing about being a cook, you had to clean no equipment. You had to do none of that stuff, You got to know what equipment is on a fire truck. You got to know on a fire truck, even at nighttime with no lights, you got to be able to find a piece of equipment without walking all around and trying to hunt for it. You got to know which cabinet in, which one is in. Those things you had to learn, and the streets and the routes and things, as I said before. But I didn't have to do no cleanup. I don't care if it's snow, rain, or whatever. I just sit there on the desk, listen, wait for the phone call while they clean up. So, in a sense, they thought maybe they might have hurt me, but in a sense they were blessing me too, because I got out a whole lot of cleaning detail.
Hear my prayer, Lord. Father of Jacob, shepherd of David, you promised that I'd have life.
When the job came open for fire inspector, 8 years, I was in the firefight, and then the job came open, and they had no blacks in the fire prevention. And so I applied for that. And when the first time I applied for it, I didn't get it. And what happened was they had another guy they put in there. So I told the captain, I told the chief, I said, "Listen, y'all put him in there," because he was white. And so I said, "I know he won't smart than I was, and I knew he didn't have it up here." So they said, "No, ain't nothing like that." And then they went on talking he had a bad back and all. I said, "Okay." And so we went on with that. Then when the next opening comes, they told me this, and this is true. You don't have to reapply for the position. We're gonna give you the position, but we gotta announce it. You know what I'm saying? Put it on the bulletin board. But you already got the job. I knew I had the job before they put it on the bulletin board. And that's how they did things then. And so when I got the job, I went into fire prevention. And so I had to go to fire prevention school. I went up to arson investigation school in Washington, D.C. And that was another experience too, because we were in a class of about 300-400 people, and it was 2 blacks in that class. And the thing that was so unique about that class was when we took the test, I came out number 1 on the test, he came out number 2, and they accused us of cheating. And so I asked him, I said, well, how are we going to cheat? I'm in the front, he said way back in the back. I said, tell me how we're going to do that. So they never figured that one out. But they just figured like 2 black people couldn't have come 1 and 2, or all these folks. And my first fire inspection station or duty area was Church Hill, East End. And my first experience in the East End was the fact that I had to inspect all the businesses. And being the first black fire inspector, and folks weren't used to seeing somebody come in there. And usually the fire inspector, when he comes in, he come in unannounced. You don't come in and say, I'm coming to you Tuesday. You go in. And so I went in, and I went into a pawn shop down on Main Street. And this guy had some of the violation and it wasn't funny. So I wrote him up about a 2-page violation. So I left. And so next thing I know, the chief was calling me and told me, come to the office. And I said, man, I done something wrong. I don't know what I done. The chief calling me. So I go up to the office, and the chief told me, said, come on in my office. He carried me into his office, closed the door. He said, you just left in the name of the pawn shop. He said, you just left there? I said, yeah. He said, now what I want you to do, I want you to go back down there and find some more wrong. I said, well, why? I just left there. He said, no. He said, because this man called me and asked me, did I have to do what that nigga said? And he said, yeah, you going back down and find some more. So I had to go back down there. And he was upset he saw me again. But that was some of the experiences, right? And other experiences was even among our own black people. When I came in to make inspection, one of them told me, say, well, listen, we walked all around and marched all around and get y'all guys those eager right. You come in here and write me up. I say, hey, look, man, I'm just doing my job. Actually, he was in so many violations. If his place had caught a fire, he got burned up in there. You see what I'm saying? So he didn't realize I was really doing him a favor by letting him know that he was in a dangerous situation. But hey, that's some of the things you deal with, you know. And then people always second guess you. Do you know what you're talking about? I guess one of the times when I got really most upset in my whole time of being in the fire department was I was in Tall Hammers at that time downtown and making inspection and going around. And this real old white lady had a bunch of clothes. And she called me, she said, hey, boy. And let me tell you something. I knew I was saved, but something set me off, boy. And I asked her, I said, who are you calling a boy? She said, come on, take this stuff out to my car. I said, you look at my uniform. Do I look like a boy to you? And she looked at me like she was shocked, you know. But the point was, people would second guess you and didn't think that you should be where you are or knew what you knew. But those kind of things that we had to endure, we were in the fire department. The same thing with when other blacks would go into other houses. It was the same kind of thing, you know. You had to always prove who you were, what you knew. And those were the things that we endure, and we just had to stay there and pave the way for somebody else to do it. And now it's a whole different outfit. I mean, it's different all the way around. We had black chiefs and everything else, but that was definitely an experience that was a tough experience for me anyway. And let me share this with you. When I got ready to resign to go full-time in ministry, the chief told me, he said, listen, matter of fact, he told me, he said, you're going at the wrong time. You got a recession coming on and this and that. I said, no, I gotta go. Lord called me to go, I gotta go. And so I resigned. He said, now, if you get out there, this is what the chief told me, he said, I'm talking to the chief of the fire department. He told me, he said, if you get out there and you find out that you can't make it, come on back, because you can always come back. So I left in a good reputation. You know, I always try, everywhere I go, I try to leave so I can always keep a door open. You know, not that I'm looking to go back, but the point is, people approve of what you've done, you know. Yeah, you gotta find favor when you go. But that's about what it was, you know, with me. And so that's what we want to get. My proudest moment is being able to come out what you're doing and people paying attention to what you're doing and knowing that it was not some given, but something you earned, and you had the knowledge to earn it. And the people coming behind you will have the same kind of privilege. And that's what made me proud of what I was doing. You know.